The last couple of weeks, we've gotten an avalanche of gameplay leaks from Battlefield 2025, Battlefield 6, whatever it ends up being called, and since then, a steady stream of footage has been coming out from the Battlefield Labs testing. Today, I wanted to dive deep into those things that we learned on a more thorough level, talking weapons scene, class details, and all things in between. So, drop your thoughts, drop a like, and make sure to subscribe for more Battlefield and other FPS content. I'd love to have in the community. But also, check out the second channel where we're getting things going again. We just dropped 2 videos earlier today, so I'd love to see you out there as well for basically any other game we decide to talk about. Reviews, guides, playthroughs, all that, all linked down below. But anyways, let's get into it. So first and foremost, I can't show the footage here with this video. While footage is still up at a number of different locations, I will drop links below to where you can find some of it, but it's still intellectual property of EA, DICE, and any other affiliated party involved that it's very possible they could hit anybody that posts that footage with a DMCA takedown. Copyright strikes that will just straight up remove any of our conversation here if we were to feature it, and further damage the channel as a whole. So respectfully, I'd like to not risk that, but relevant links will be provided down below in the description, but just won't be in this video. Secondly, this is early alpha, work in progress stuff, and even some developers have chimed in on the leaks to reassure players that what they're seeing, there are even newer builds already taking into account things like bugs that may have been seen from that footage. But more importantly, especially with vocal reactions from leaked footage, it sure seems like they're combing through feedback and reading it. So we can't speak to how much of that will be acted on, but it seems like at the very least, feedback is being seen. So feel free to include your thoughts, criticisms, and all. Let's try and keep it constructive. But anyways, these leaks, let's start with weapons. I think that was one of the first things that I was interested in learning about whenever I was trying to find all these different leaks here when that footage started to come out. But let's start with weapons. For rifles, we saw the Galil Ace, the FX05 Shukato, the G3KA4, Tavor 7, HK433, and the Scar L. The carbines, we saw the M4A1, AK12, HK417, one other unknown one, and then one that was a placeholder, but with the same HK417 icon. The SMGs, we saw the MPX, Chris Vector, MP5A3, UMP45, and the MP7. The LMGs, we saw the MG338, the M249 Para, the MG4 or MG5, the RPK, M27 IAR, and the M60 E6. The snipers, we saw the M2010 ESR. Pistols, we saw what was either the P22X or the P320. And then we saw some miscellaneous weapons of the RPG 7V2 and the M320. Now, this appears to have no class restrictions on weaponry if you were to get into Battlefield Labs and be able to play this for yourself, whereas previously we've had class restrictions, weapons designated only for those Scout, Assault, Engineer, and Support classes. Personally speaking, I've always kind of liked the class locks, as strange as that may sound for some people. I feel like this adds a bit more weight to your class selection, choosing your playstyle accordingly, and having some trade-offs in what you're able to choose for your weaponry. Now, it is possible this is truly just to get testing on any and all weapons for the players that may want to jump in and try everything out, get as much data and feedback as possible, but we'll have to see. You also do have to keep in mind the entire point of Battlefield Labs and these tests are to allow feedback like this to stand out. So if you like to see these class restrictions or not, let your opinion be known on that kind of stuff. Also, talking numbers of weapons overall, I was actually really pleasantly surprised that we saw this many in such an early alpha phase. For these limited closed tests, I kind of expected whenever we heard about this kind of stuff, we'd have like maybe 5 to 10 weapons, not nearly as many as we have here with this listing that we just rattled off. Now, class details, let's talk a little bit about that, because one of the big things about Battlefield 2025 or Battlefield 6 that we can talk about is like the return to air quote form with the 4 classes: Scout, Assault, Engineer, and Support. One of the big things that came out of the Battlefield Labs footage here with this was unique perks associated with each of these classes. These unique perks were something where you start each match at level 1, and then your squad could level up as you progress in the match, where if your squad then gets wiped, if it works like how it has in the past, you'd lose that progress and it would reset, meaning that it's similar to Battlefield 4's field upgrades or the squad reinforcements from Battlefield 5. But for the Scout class, level 1 would grant you Sniper Tree, which you can spot by aiming and eliminate weapon sway and gain resistance in spotting. Level 2 would grant you the Despicable perk, which enemies you shoot in the chest with a bolt action rifle are revealed and heal slower at that point. Level 3 would grant you Kill Shot, where enemies that you headshot with bolt action rifles also cannot be revived. Pretty important there for that one, and offers a nice benefit to hitting headshots if you do reach that level. And level 4 will grant you mortar support, where you can call in a mortar strike where you're aiming. Kind of interesting for sure. Assault, you have level 1, which is Grenadier, where you can carry more grenades. Level 2 will be Flak, where it grants you resistance to explosive damage. Level 3 will grant you Gadget Reload, which will reload gadgets faster. And level 4 will be Heavy Flank, which will temporarily gain extreme damage resistance against explosives. The Engineer class, level 1 will grant you the Anti-Armor Tree, which will slow down vehicles you heavily damage, gain extra rockets, and reveal vehicles. Level 2 will grant you Dogpile, which will reload rocket launchers faster. Level 3 will be Mark Target, where vehicles you damage or spot are easier to lock onto. And level 4 will be Thermite Drone, where you can deploy a suicide drone capable of disrupting vehicles upon detonation. And finally, support, the 4 levels associated with this here. In level 1, you'll get Medical Triage, which will allow faster reviving and dragging, which will improve supply crates and will grant you the ability to heal while reviving. Level 2 will grant Crate Heal Plus, which will improve the supply crate's healing. Level 3 will grant the Perimeter Defense, where defensive gadgets recharge faster and have increased capabilities. And level 4 will be Active Medic, which can heal others as if you were a supply crate and revive much faster for a limited time. So basically, just walking by your teammates here can offer that healing benefit. One additional thing with support is that it seems to have combined the ammo crate and medic bag into just one supply crate, so you get both of those now in one. I've seen some mixed reactions here with that, but anyways, we know of the gadgets also for your classes of the M26 Mash Dragon Breath, the M320 Smoke Grenade, the M320 Thermite Launcher, and the Thermobaric, and the 40mm Drill Charge. Utility, you'll end up having a Frag Grenade, the RKG-3AT, the RGO Impact, V40 Mini, M84 Flashbang, Mark 141 Mod 0, M18 Smoke, M14 Incendiary, and the Throwing Knife. So we learned a lot about the class setups and how you can end up gearing yourself out for each of these battles in the upcoming Battlefield 2025 or Battlefield 6, whatever we had end up being called. But that's not the only thing, of course, this reveals. On top of what we've already discussed here in the initial preview of these leaks, there's a ton of different gameplay items from general and gameplay features that we learned about out of all this as well. But one of the things to continue on with the weaponry here before we get to other areas of gameplay focus was the gameplay leaks detailed a bit of the gunplay as a whole, and a big topic of the discussion lately has been the recoil. Clips are, naturally, when you see random players of all skills taking part in these playtests, all over the place when it comes to recoil. Some offering clips where it looks like recoil is non-existent, or where it looks entirely out of control. Some clips are veterans, some clips are just at higher FOV, which lowers the visual recoil comparatively, and some clips are just straight up holding the trigger until you're pointed at the sky. There's a number of different variables. Personally speaking, I'm welcoming of a bit more recoil that either takes a little bit to master, or you find value in tap or burst firing to master those mechanics of the weaponry. Another thing that was also spotted that was pretty cool is the fact that at least on snipers, perhaps on all weapons, but at least seen on snipers, was that we have apparently scope zeroing returning, which is definitely cool. While there might be some satisfaction in guessing, pulling the trigger and getting the kill, knowing your proper lead is absolutely beneficial to the overall gameplay experience. So nice to see that. Beyond that, we of course have a bunch of things we've already seen, but in recent gameplay leaks it further confirmed additional general things like movement seems to be slower with no tack sprint, that being something that takes it back to a more, I want to say, based off the looks here, a refined version of what we saw in, say, Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4, where you are a bit clunkier, you're a bit heavier in nature to how you're sprinting, but it's not anything that's like bogging you down. It's just a more grounded approach to how those animations work. The audio, again, sounds great. I think that was one of my favorite parts here out of watching all these different perspectives of the leaked footage, where it was just, for as early as it was in development here, still pre-alpha, everything has that depth, that immersive value to it where it does sound pretty dang good. Then the HUD, being reminiscent of Battlefield 4, might be a little bit more cluttered, I think, than I'd like, but again, that's something that will probably be finished over time, and what we see now likely isn't going to be exactly what we see at ship for that HUD. Gameplay features, though, one of the cool things that a lot of people caught was first-person animations for deaths, so it's not something that pops you out into that third-person perspective, but keeps you more so relative to that. But also you have the ability to drag a soldier to safety here at this. Maybe tied into that support class where the level 1 medical triage trait allows you faster revive and dragging, but I'm assuming the wording of that is you just drag faster, so you should be able to do that for every other player. Personally, I think the animation could be a bit cleaner, but again, we're still in early alpha, so this isn't something that is, again, going to be likely the end case of this. The defib is also seen from this gameplay, so allowing for some of that classic revive. Dog tags appear to be back based on the top squad menu UI that came out of the Battlefield Labs leaks, so that'll be something that's definitely nice. A cool little classic there. The 3D minimap and spawn screen is something that's a slight deviation from what we have, but I think still looks pretty good. I personally like that we're seeing the spawn cam on these spawn in options once again, that being something that, as we've talked about, has been hit or miss in Battlefield games, been there in some, not others, but I personally like that. You get to see firsthand what you're spawning into and not just like, oh, when my teammate went out of combat, everything's probably fine, and then just get absolutely blasted just because it has that split second where you can spawn in. But that's something that will now benefit that situation. Vehicle supply stations are something that are back within this. We have all chat, we have the scoreboard, and a bunch of other things that come along with that. So frankly, when we take a look at the Battlefield 6, Battlefield 2025 leaks, we've learned a lot out of this already, and it seems like a lot of it is pointing in the right direction. But I wanted to fill you guys in a little bit more with some of what we didn't get around to talking about here as of the initial reaction video to that a couple of weeks back now at this point. But I just want to fill you guys in on some even more things that have been found since then after the community's been digging through it with a fine-tooth comb. So personally looking forward to seeing more and more leaks come out here of this, giving us a better glimpse at what to expect here with this build currently, and of course hopefully for feedback to be heard and taken into account so that we can continue to evolve this here and make it hopefully a solid Battlefield game in the future. But for now, that's where we're going to wrap it up. Let me know your thoughts down below of what has leaked so far. What do you like, dislike, whatever the case? Drop your thoughts. But if you enjoyed the video, you found it at all insightful, do me a favor, drop a like on it. Of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a single thing regarding all things Battlefield, COD, and other FPS content here on the channel. I'd love to have in the community. And of course, on the second channel, basically any other game out there that piques my interest. Would love to have you in the communities. But for now, thanks so much for watching. Mine has been Espresso. I'll see you later. Take care and peace.